Good morning, I'm Earth Dr. Reese Halter, and you're listening to Earthcast, SOS. Year, millions of shorebirds fly between Australasia and the Arctic. For many, this year might be their last flight. Southern Hemisphere shorebirds perform an amazing feat. They are inexorably linked into the timing of spring in the Arctic and the mosquito hatch in June and July. China's Yellow Sea mudflats are their crucial food source northward to the Arctic. The mudflats are loaded with shellfish in April and May, and the shores of Australasia in November and December on their ride south to the southern hemisphere's summer months. In 2007, a female bar-tailed godwit was tracked flying 7,258 miles from Alaska to New Zealand in 9 straight days of flying. It was the longest recorded bird flight on the planet. In its short lifetime, this small bird flies enough to reach the moon. Bar-tailed godwits, snipes, stilts, turnstones, and curlews, among others, face enormous and now insurmountable challenges because we're in the 6th great extinction, driven by humans and rapacious greed. The populations of eastern and sandpiper curlews have plummeted by 80% in the past 4.5 decades. 7 of Australia's 37 migratory wader species are edging towards extinction. Shorebirds are not seabirds, they're waders. No webbed feet for these feathered friends. They eke an existence at the interface between the land and the sea, the intertidal zone, and its rich mudflats at low tides, and the wide array of creatures adapted to survive in a rough ecosystem pounded by the sea and its waves. East Asian Australian flyway accommodates approximately 8 million birds that travel from Australia to the Arctic Circle. It takes 22 countries, from Bangladesh and Myanmar in the west to Australia and New Zealand in the south, and Russia, Alaska, and Korea in the north. All along this route, the intertidal zones are under siege from humans. This breathtaking flyway is teetering on the brink of collapse. Near the Wiggins coal terminal in Queensland that feeds the insatiable demand of climate-altering subsidized coal to China and India are the critically endangered eastern curlews, searching and probing the mudflats for food to power their fragile bodies to the Arctic. My colleagues are still trying to figure what curlews' diets consist of when their beaks enter the mud. Shorebirds intrigue Darwin. Why do they have varying lengths and shapes? These birds are specialists, adapted to a couple of food sources, unlike generalists that can eat a wide array of foods. So when shorebirds' habitat is destroyed, they die. In order to fly over 7,000 miles one way, shorebirds' organs must prepare for a Tour de France long-haul trip. Their gizzards or stomachs and livers contract, and their hearts enlarge to endure physical exertion. These birds must be full of energy-rich fat, slow burning, to fuel them to the other side of the world. Australasian shorebirds traveled to the mudflats, fed by China's mighty Yangtze River, which has provided food for them for thousands of years. China's Yellow Sea is one of the most overfished seas on the globe. From 2003 to 2013, seawalls in China destroyed over 3.3 million acres of intertidal habitat. 51% of China's coastal wetlands gone. South Korea, 60% wetlands gone. 70% of China's coastline is now walled. Over 6,600 miles. Cement. 90% of the habitat Godwits used in China in 2008 gone. Oh! Meanwhile, the few birds remaining must contend with pharmaceutical factories along the shoreline belching a stench of rotten meat 24/7. The only safe spot left on the flyway is North Korea's shoreline. It's undeveloped, the last leg before the Arctic Circle. Something else has gone terribly wrong. The Arctic, ladies and gentlemen, has a fever. Mosquitoes are hatching much earlier. Burning subsidized fossil fuels and the climate crisis has caused a climate-driven mismatch. These migratory birds and their timing is off. Earth is warming too quickly for them to catch up. This has epic consequences for the southern hemisphere shorebirds. The chicks are hatching after the mosquito bloom has peaked. The young birds are much smaller, including the length of their bills. By the time they reach 21 days old, they fledge at the tender age of 23 or 25 days. Shorebirds must begin migrating to the southern hemisphere. No guidance provided by their parents. How they navigate non-stop is one of nature's astounding mysteries. When they first land in New Zealand, or Broome, Western Australia, or Botany Bay, New South Wales, they fall over, exhausted. Their legs have been tucked tight beneath them for over a week, wings locked in flight position. A few hours later, the snipes, curlews, godwits, stilts, knots, turnstones pick themselves up and start feeding. Wowzer! It's a race to get strong enough to fly to the Arctic again. The caveat is to save the remaining habitat, or what's left of it, in 22 countries. In many ways, the shorebirds are telling us that we must work with nature, not against her. Because if the shorebirds die, we die. It's the ultimate race for survival in the sixth great extinction. Hashtag save nature now. Hashtag love nature. Hashtag love is the solution. Earthcast SOS depends upon you, the listeners. So come on to drreese.com. DRREESE.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and click on that donate button. Or pick yourself up any number of swell books on bees, trees, seas, wild weather, or life, the wonder of it all. Just do it. drreese.com. I'm Earth Doctor Reese Halter, reminding you to protect our planet.